Hey YouTube, today we're going to be comparing two of the most common Glocks that were ever made. And before we get started, I'm going to let you know that neither one of these Glocks have anything in them, and we are clear to make this video. A lot of people always ask me why I show you that they're not loaded at the beginning. It's because YouTube requires it, or they will pull the videos. So what we have here is two of the OG Glocks. The one here on top, we have a Glock 17. This is a full-size 9mm pistol. And the one here on the bottom is a Glock 19, which is considered a mid-size pistol. And the reason I'm making this video is I was requested to do it. And this is for the folks that were wanting to buy one Glock pistol. And these are the two most common times. And maybe this will help you make a decision on which one you want. So the one we're going to start off with is the OG, the original Glock 17. Now this was introduced to the world in 1982, and this is what got all the fun started with the Glock pistols. And what this is a full-size 9mm polymer frame striker fired pistol, and this is an iconic design, and because of this pistol is why a lot of pistols today exist. A lot of people has copied this pistol, copied the design. There's been lawsuits come up here and there over them, and it's just unmatched in its reliability. Now, a lot of people think I don't like Glocks, and a lot of people think I don't like 9mm. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. I have both of these here in front of you, and this is what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to talk about any shortcomings of the 9mm round. We're not going to talk about shortcomings of the Glocks. I'm just here to tell you I like them both. So, full-size pistol. What's the capacity on this? So the capacity on a full-size Glock is going to be 17 rounds in the magazine. So you get a 17 plus 1 capacity, which equals 18 rounds that you're carrying around with this. So just got your basic Glock design. Doesn't have any of the fancy cuts on top for the optics or anything. It's got the regular plastic Glock sights that come on it, and this features a 4.5-inch barrel on it. So the length from top to bottom, from right here to right here, you know, the top to bottom, at the longest area is 5.5 inches. So the next one we're going to look at is a Glock 19. This is a mid-size Glock, and this was introduced in 1988. Now this is probably one of the most sold popular handguns in the entire world. Almost everybody has one of these things, and it's just a great design. It's a lot more compact, a lot more compact. It looks a lot more compact. We're going to show you the differences in them. Same thing on top. It doesn't have any optic cut or anything like that, and this one has some true low night sights on it. So these are made out of metal, and these you can pick these up a little bit better. At least I can. That's my eyesight. So the top to the bottom measurement on this is 5 inches, and this thing has a 4-inch barrel on it. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages to each? Well, the obvious reason that people would choose this one over the Glock 17 is to be able to conceal it. It's got a shorter barrel, and it's got a shorter grip length right here, and the grip length is the most important when it comes to conceal carry in a gun. I live in a state where you cannot open carry yet. That may be changing here soon, but you cannot open carry where I live, so you have to conceal carry. So this might be the better option. With the Glock 17, it's a little bit larger. This grip length is a 1/2 inch longer, and a 1/2 inch makes a lot of difference when it comes to printing and concealed carrying. You'll see it's about a 1/2 inch difference here in the top. Now the barrel length on a 17 is also going to be 1/2 inch longer. So I'm going to show you side by side. We're going to hold them side by side, and you'll see there's about a 1/2 inch difference. So it's not quite as big a difference as a lot of people may think, but it does make a difference. Now, one of the misnomers people think about handguns is the longer barrel makes a gun more accurate, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Doesn't make it more accurate. Now, when you start talking about inches, it can make it quite a bit difference in velocity when you're getting into like rifle rounds and stuff like that. But in pistol rounds, it really doesn't make much difference in velocity at half an inch. But what the difference is, you can shoot a little bit more accurate because you have a longer sight radius here, and you can make more precise adjustments with your sights on a longer barrel than you do a shorter barrel. So it's not the barrel that makes it more accurate. It's actual the sight bore, the sight radius that you're looking at. The longer sight radius you can get on any firearm, the little bit more precise you can shoot. So that gives you 1 point to the Glock 17 over the Glock 19. It's got a half an inch longer sight radius than it does on the Glock 19. Now, you got to ask yourself what you're going to be using these things for. Are you going to be concealed carrying? Are you going to use it for home defense? Or are you going to use it just as a range gun? And all that's going to take into account when you're picking out which one you want to pick. And I'm going to show you some of the reasons why I think one of them's better than the other, some of the reasons why I think one's worse than the other. So we're going to take, for example, this Glock 19. So I have pretty large hands. I have gorilla hands, a lot of people say. And this gun fits pretty well in my hand. But if you'll notice, my last finger comes to the very end of this gun. Now, does that make a difference to me when I'm shooting this gun? It absolutely doesn't. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But what does make a difference is when you're trying to do fast reloads. If you'll notice where my hand is on this gun, when I pull this magazine out and I'm doing a real fast reload, I sometimes pinch my hand when I'm reloading this gun. Now, in a stressful situation, that's probably not going to matter. But if you're using this just to go to the range and you're practicing drills and doing fast reloads, that could be a difference if you have large hands. If you take the Glock 17 and do the same thing, that half an inch makes such a big difference. And when you release this magazine and you go to speed load it, it does not pinch my hand. So big difference there in speed loading when you have large hands. Not everybody has gargantuan gorilla hands like I do, but that just makes a little bit of a difference to me. Now, a lot of people think that a smaller gun is going to have more felt recoil. Well, folks, we're going to talk about that for a second. 9mm is not a high recoil gun anyway. It doesn't recoil a lot. And there has been numerous videos and studies done on these two guns with the recoil difference, and I can tell absolutely no difference in shooting this full-size Glock 17 than I can this 19. The recoil feels exactly the same, and when we're talking about weight difference, there's a 2-ounce weight difference. I can't remember right off the top of my head the weight, but the Glock 17 loaded or unloaded weighs about 2 ounces more than the Glock 19. So 2 ounces, there's really not that big a difference in size, and that's not going to tame recoil for a 9mm really that much. So recoil is not really going to be an issue. When we're talking about accuracy, the 4-inch barrel versus the 4.5-inch barrel does not make a lot of difference. The main difference is the sight radius here, like I just explained. And I can tell you that if I'm getting on target and I'm trying to do a fast shot group with this Glock 19 versus this Glock 17, there's absolutely no difference in them. I don't see any difference. I can do one of them just as well as I can the other. The only downfall I see to this Glock 19 is because of the size of my hands, because of reloading it. But holding it is very comfortable in my hand to hold it, and it's like the perfect size. So if you were going to pick one of them, and you want to use this is want to be your all-around go-to gun, I think this is a very good choice, this Glock 19, because you could use it as a concealed carry gun, and it does conceal quite a bit more because of this half-an-inch difference in this grip length. If you wanted to use just home defense and range and you don't care about carrying a firearm, and a lot of people don't feel that they have to carry a handgun, the Glock 17 might be a little bit, it's a full-size gun. It fits very well in my hand, but not everybody has as large hands as I do. Now, this thing might be oversized for people with small hands, and maybe they may lean more towards the Glock 19. I'm going to show you one of the cool things about Glocks, and this is why I steer towards the traditional Glocks versus these new single stack, super thin ones and stuff like that. You take this 17 rounds magazine out, and you take the magazine out of the Glock 19, it's going to be a 2-round difference. So you got to understand, when you're carrying the Glock 19, you're going to be down 2 rounds versus the Glock 17. So this one's a 15 plus 1, and this one's a 17 plus 1. But the beauty of a Glock is you can take the larger magazine and you can use it in a Glock 19, and that fixes the problem with the grip length and stuff like that. It just turns it into a full-size gun. Now, there's a little bit of gap where it sticks out on the bottom here, and there's a company called X Grips that makes a little gap filler that just slides right over the magazine and completes this, and I use those for my Glock 30S that I carry around every single day. I use, with my spare backup mags, I put the X grips on them, and I have a full-size gun and just inserting a magazine. So it's really cool how versatile Glocks are, how these magazines all interchange, and Glock just has their stuff figured out when it comes to that. And we're not even going to get into the reliability, because everybody knows how reliable these are. Now, one of the things that I don't understand about people that really like Glocks, and I am one of the people that really like Glocks, I have a bunch of them, is modifying them, over modifying them. This design was made 40 years ago, and it's got a reputation of being a very reliable gun. Well, when you start changing like triggers and stuff like that, you're changing a design that is proven, and I don't believe in doing that. I believe that Glock has spent millions and millions of dollars in research and testing and stuff like that to come up with a gun that has a reputation to be as reliable as this, and I'm not going to change it. The modifications I usually do to Glock, and everybody's different, what they do is I put the 3.5 pound Ghost trigger bar in them, and sometimes I change the sights depending on the application, and this happens to be one of the ones that I did change the sights on. This one here only has the trigger bar in it, but the sights are the same because I actually like the Glock look right here. I don't use this gun for any kind of duty or any kind of carrying or anything like that, so I don't really feel it's necessary to change the sights on them. I can pick these sights up just fine. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is there's been 5 generations of Glocks on this Glock 17. So they've made 5 different changes since 1982. And this is the last change. This is the latest one. This is the Gen 5. And a lot of people have never seen the Gen 5s. They think the Gen 5s all have the front finger grooves on them. This one does not. This one was not the serrations on it. I'm sorry, I'm fumbling around with my words. This one doesn't have the front slide serrations on them. This was an earlier Gen 5 before they started putting these serrations on the front of the slide. And the same goes for this Glock 19. Doesn't have the front slide serrations. This is also a Gen 5. So the Gen 5 has a single pin that goes through the trigger group instead of the 3 pins. Doesn't have the finger grooves on the front. It has kind of a flared out mag well here, and these earlier ones have this little notch here that I actually like. A lot of people complain about these and says there pinches their fingers, and I haven't never had a problem with that. What I like about this is if you did run into a malfunction, which is very odd with the Glock pistol, you can rip this magazine out very easily by sticking your finger in here instead of fighting with it. And that's important to me if you were using this as a duty weapon or a defense weapon. Same thing here. Now, they changed these later on in the Gen 5 configuration when they added the front serrations on the slides. But these are both Gen 5s. These both have the slightly flared out mag well, the interchangeable back straps here, so you can adjust the sides of your hands. And I've never found myself using these back straps, but they do give you that option to do that. Now, also with the Gen 5s, they have the ambidextrous slide release right here. Both of them have that. The earlier ones did not. So you'll see that they have the ambidextric stuff and a little bit larger magazine release, so you can really find that when you're trying to do fast reloads on them. But between the two, I think they're both great choices in 9mm Glocks. And if you only choose one, you just figure out which one fits your hand first, fits your hand the best, and you figure out what your application is going to be when you're using it. Now, what you might want to think about is if you're only going to buy one Glock and you're only going to have one 9mm Glock pistol, that and you want to carry it and you want to have a range gun and everything, this one might be the better option because you can put larger magazines in them and make it into a full-size gun just by inserting the magazine. Then you can pull it out and put your 15-round magazine in it to carry it to make it a little bit smaller. This one you're never going to be able to make it smaller, but it doesn't have that gap in between. You don't have to worry about putting any parts on it or anything to make it into a full-size gun. It's just going to be a little bit harder to conceal than the Glock 19. But both excellent guns, both iconic, been around for, going on 40 years. And this is the benchmark of what people try and copy when they make new striker-fired pistols. I love Glocks. It was the first handgun I ever bought was a Glock, and I'm never going to not like Glocks unless they make some drastic change. I know I give the people a hard time that do Glocks and talk about them, but they are very good pistols. They're very reliable, and they always work, folks. But anyway, if you have any questions on either one of these two pistols, I have separate videos on each one of them. They're very, very, very similar. They're just one of them's a little bit smaller, but a lot of stuff is interchangeable on these. And they do have a pistol that is a hybrid between these two, and I own that too, and that's the 19X. It has the large Glock 17 frame. It has the short and slide on it, and that's actually my favorite one out of all of them. But anyway, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll answer them to the best of my ability, and thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.